So I have my cup of coffee and I'm ready to talk about movies and some TV shows. So this is my fourth what I watched in the last month video, and this is for the month of July. I just love recapping the good films I saw, the bad ones. But this month I actually have about like 20 different topics to go through. I really do enjoy when people share in the comments what they've been watching or their thoughts on one of the movies or shows or films or whatever that I mentioned. So please feel free to comment down below and let me know if any of the movies I mentioned you watched and what you thought, and if are your opinions different than mine, or are we on the same page? So I'm actually going to start off with the movie that I have been mentioning pretty much every single video so far, and it is Cruella. I finally saw Cruella. So we ended up finally watching it at Disney Springs at the AMC theater, which is really cool because they have like this red carpet and they had this whole setup for Cruella. And I have to admit, I loved it way more than I was anticipating. In fact, it really impressed me. It's the best Disney film I've seen in a very long time. It's gonna be free on Disney Plus in August. We were gonna wait till August, but then we just gave in, and honestly, so glad we did. It was just such a fun film. Both Emma Stone and Emma Thompson were both amazing, especially Emma Thompson. She was like the real villain. I think my favorite character would have to be Wink. He was just so cute. I want one in my life with a little eye patch. I was obsessed with the dogs in this movie, and especially Wink. Every time he was on the screen, I was just so happy to see him. I also love the actor who played Horace, Paul Walter Hauser. I have my notes. Paul Walter Hauser, because he was great. He was one of my favorite characters. He was so funny. If you have not seen Cruella, I definitely highly recommend it. It is such a fun movie. Love the fashion, love the music, love the acting, loved even the smaller characters who end up being really good comedy to the movie. Worth watching for sure. In fact, I will definitely be rewatching this one when it comes out free on Disney Plus. I actually have a spoiler that I want to ask anyone who's watched this film. So if you have not watched Cruella, skip to this timestamp right here. I'll put it somewhere in this area, and I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I have a question for those who have watched it. At this point, if you're still watching, spoilers are coming. If Cruella in 101 Dalmatians hates Dalmatians, how come she stays with the Dalmatians at the end and never killed them? Actually, she never even talks about that. That's never even brought up. The fact that she hates dogs is not a thing. In fact, she loves dogs. What was that about? I just felt like that didn't match the story of 101 Dalmatians. Like, how could she become the Cruella who goes around wanting to kill Dalmatians? It just doesn't make sense to me. So that was my only little thing that I had. Besides that, it was great films. There's actually a few movies that we've been considering watching in theaters. One of them was old, and I think we're gonna skip it because I've been reading some reviews and they don't look that great. So we might skip the movie Old, but it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie, which we love usually, typically. Well, sometimes actually. His films are kind of, you know, hit and miss. Jeremy really wants to watch The Green Knight. I'm filming this on Saturday and it's hopefully gonna go up by Monday. And the funny part is that we might actually go watch The Green Knight on Monday. I guess you'll find out in what we watched in August. But moving on to another new film that just came out this year and was actually a lot of fun to watch, Till Death, with Megan Fox, because she is so beautiful. It is a thriller and action film, and the cool part is that Megan Fox did a lot of her own stunts. She was very much involved in all the action in this movie, and I really give her credit for that. If you don't know what it's about, she wakes up handcuffed to her dead husband, and then a lot of stuff happens. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to give away more than that. It is very fun to watch. It was definitely thrilling and very entertaining, and highly recommend watching it. I've always had like a major girl crush on Megan Fox, but I hadn't really seen her in a film, or at least a good film, since Jennifer's Body. And I love Jennifer's Body. I think it is one of those like underrated, great Halloween, fun, horror, comedy, I don't know what you would call it. It's like a parody of horror films, and it's such a great film. And it was just so nice to see her again in a film that's actually really good, that she gets all the credit for, and she was a badass in this film, so I definitely enjoyed it. The next film I wanted to talk about is actually not a new film, it's from 2020, but this film was so insane that I have to talk about it, and it's called Unhinged. It's a thriller that is currently on Amazon Prime, and it's with Russell Crowe, and it is insane in the best way possible. Out of all the films we saw this month, this one gave me the most anxiety. It is based on road rage, which is terrifying because something you overlook all the time is someone getting pissed off at you when you're driving. It's basically about a woman who pisses off the wrong guy while driving. Definitely makes you reconsider the idea of cutting someone off in the road or beeping at someone, because if you piss off the wrong person, Russell Crowe is just so good at being this horrible person. I mean, I believed it. Very violent film, but definitely has you at the edge of your seat the entire time. I thought it was really fun to watch. Even though it was obviously very aggressive and violent, I still thought it was such a fun watch. So if you like violent movies, things escalate so quickly and just go so far in this film that it really is like, psh. But it's fun, so watch it. The next film is actually a 2021 film, and it just came out. It's on Netflix, and it's called Blood Red Sky. It is a German thriller action film. Kind of a crazy one, but fun. It's about terrorists who hijack a flight, which is already terrifying on its own, but then throw in like zombie vampires, and then you got this film. There's a mother and her son, and they're on this flight, and she's mysteriously ill. And basically, if you just combine zombies, vampires of some sort, and then terrorists on an airplane and chaos, that's what you get with this film. It's a lot. I'm gonna be a little negative about the next film. It's also a new film that just came out this year, and it is called Spiral, which I'm sure you've heard of. It is a horror thriller based on the Saw franchise. It has really good actors in it. It has Chris Rock, it has Samuel Jackson. It's basically a bunch of cops trying to investigate a murder or a series of murders, and it's very similar to the movie Seven. But imagine if Seven was way more aggressive with the murders, and then throw in the Saw traps, and now you got Spiral. I'm a little biased, and I've never been a big fan of Saw or the Saw movies. Actually, the first Saw movie, I don't mind. I actually like that one a little bit. I'm not really into watching torture or seeing like overly gory Saw traps. It's just not my thing. I get uncomfortable, I can't even look. It's just, I'm not a fan. So this one was uncomfortable because of that, and the in-between parts where they're investigating and it's just not the torture parts, but the other parts were just kind of boring. Once you find out who the person in charge of all this is, I just wasn't impressed with that. I didn't believe it. Felt like a mediocre film, to be honest. So those are my thoughts with that. But if you feel differently and you saw Spiral, please feel free to tell me how wrong I am. The next film I'm gonna mention is also a new one, and it's called Nobody, and it just came out this year. It's an action thriller with the actor Bob Odenkirk. Am I saying it right? I know him, and you might know him from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. I love Breaking Bad. It's my favorite show I've ever seen ever. And seeing Saul, the character Saul, as this person in the movie was pretty cool. At first I didn't believe it, because he's like a badass in this film, and at first I wasn't, like, I couldn't see past, I kept seeing Saul, you know, like I was so programmed to see him as this like goofy lawyer that I couldn't get past that he was supposed to be this like crazy badass guy. But I have to give him credit, because by the end I believed it. I don't know how we got there, but mentally I got past it and I was believing it at the end, so it's a good sign. Also, Christopher Lloyd is in this movie, and he's from Back to the Future, and I thought that was cool, so I haven't seen him in a long time. His character gets involved with the Russians, like a mafia, and I mean, I don't even want to say more than that. Also super violent and bloody. It's also just so ridiculous with it that it's comical. It's like supposed to be ridiculous and unbelievable almost. Definitely entertaining, a little silly. I think if you can not take it too seriously as a film and enjoy it for what it is, it's actually a lot of fun. But yeah, we saw a lot of really violent films this month, so I don't know. The next movie is called The Rental, and it is a 2020 film, so it's kind of new. It is a horror thriller that is currently on Hulu. It's about two couples who rent a home for a getaway, and the host basically might be spying on them. That's kind of the premise. The problem with this film is that it's considered a horror thriller. If anything, it is way more of a drama between these two couples. 75% of the film was spent on the drama between the two couples, and there was no thrill or horror to be had. It took forever to get there. I spent the whole movie confused, like, when are we gonna, what's gonna happen? Like, it's just, I'm waiting for this movie to get somewhere, and all we're seeing is a drama. And as much as I will admit the drama is entertaining, I was enjoying that part, but I just was going into this thinking of a horror and a thriller, so I kept like waiting for something to happen, and then it didn't happen until like the last few minutes, and I was just like, wait, what happened? It was entertaining. I kind of did enjoy it. I just felt like I was misled, you know? The next film is called Shiva Baby, and this film is different. I don't even know what category it's supposed to be in. It's under comedy, but I don't think it's comedy at all. It came out in 2020 and it's on Hulu right now. It's about a college student who goes to a Jewish funeral and basically has some awkward encounters with her sugar daddy and her ex-girlfriend. And it sounds like what, but it's even more what than that. What I didn't know going into it was that the whole movie takes place in this one day. It's basically just kind of following her throughout all these encounters that are super awkward, and I'm not gonna say I didn't like it, but I didn't like it. It's a weird one. So now I'm gonna go into a few films that are not new. They didn't come out in the last 2 years, basically. They're like older films. So the first one I want to talk about is called Lars and the Real Girl. And the only reason we decided to watch it was because Jeremy was telling me that it's the same director as Cruella. His name is Craig Gillespie? He kind of just started playing the movie, and I went into it not knowing anything about the plot. It's from 2007 and it has Ryan Gosling in it. Basically, Lars is an extremely shy guy and has a very hard time socializing. So he meets a girl on the internet. I don't want to give any more than that away, but it's a weird one. It was funny, it was kind of sweet, and it was actually pretty sad. Also, Ryan Gosling did such a good job in this film because I truly believed in this character he was playing and it felt real. But then watching that film kind of got me inspired to see more Ryan Gosling movies. I don't know. I just started looking up Ryan Gosling movies and I wanted to watch another one of his. So we ended up watching All Good Things, which is a thriller mystery that came out in 2010 and it's on Amazon Prime. And it's actually loosely based on a true story of Robert Durst, who we ended up watching right after the documentary called The Jinx, because I needed to know more information about this person. I can't believe I had never seen that before, and I can't believe I've never watched All Good Things before either. This guy is the heir of a very big New York City real estate. His wife goes missing, and it's based, like I said, on Robert Durst, who his first wife disappeared in 1982. And obviously everybody thinks that he killed her. We don't even know for sure what's going on, and this is all based on a true story, so it's kind of crazy. I will say Ryan Gosling was also good in this one. I also believed in his character. He seemed like a psycho to me. I would label this film more of like a psychological thriller than anything else. It definitely was entertaining. I'm not gonna say it's like a good movie, like it wasn't amazing or anything, but it was entertaining, and I thought the story was interesting, and it made me want to go watch the documentary, The Jinx, and learn more about this crazy story. The next movie is called Mid-90s, and it's actually a film directed by Jonah Hill, which is surprising. It's from 2018, and it's considered a drama comedy. It's actually more of one of those slice of life films, if you know what I mean, comparable to 8th Grade, which I talked about in the last video I made. Also Lady Bird and The Florida Project. They're movies that kind of focus on one character and follow them around, and it's like a, I guess they call them slice of life films. I think that's right. Based in the 1990s, Los Angeles, and it's a 13-year-old boy who basically makes friends with a bunch of skater kids, and they're older than him, and he's just trying to fit in, and he's struggling with that and with his home life. And honestly, it's enjoyable. Like the language and the dialogue between the kids, the skater kids, can kind of get annoying after a while, and I don't think that's for everyone. But the actual following along of the boy and his story was really interesting, and I thought it was very impressive for a film directed by Jonah Hill, who is known for being this comedic actor. It's way more of a serious tone. Next up, we have an even older film called Sleepless in Seattle, which I'm sure everybody's heard of, but yet somehow I had not watched this film. I was very overdue with seeing this film. It had been one of those films that I've been always meaning to watch, and I just hadn't gone around to it. It's from 1993, and it's a romance. It has Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, and I love When Harry Met Sally, so I kind of figured I would love this film too. Basically, Tom Hanks, his character, his wife dies, and he is alone, and his son calls a radio station trying to help his dad find a wife, and the Meg Ryan character kind of overhears him through the radio, and all these women who hear him on the radio fall in love with him, and they all want to get a chance to meet him. I honestly expected to like it more. I was also expecting way more screen time between both Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks together. I mean, it's a cheesy rom-com for sure, but not as good as When Harry Met Sally. Just saying. I know it's a classic, so I had to watch it. Another film that I had been meaning to watch for a long time, and we finally saw it because it's a classic, is Fatal Attraction. And this is a 1987 film that's a thriller drama with Michael Douglas and Glenn Close. And it's one of those films that I know exactly the premise of it. I've seen pictures and I've seen clips of, and I can't believe I've never seen it. And it's a good one, for sure. It's a classic for a reason. This guy gets in an affair with a woman who becomes a little obsessive. A little is an understatement. And she quickly becomes a stalker and kind of goes a little crazy on him. Definitely an iconic, like, late 80s film that, again, is one of those films that if you haven't seen it, you should. It's a fun little drama, thriller movie that hopefully teaches men not to cheat. Now, going into another old film that is a totally different avenue, but we had never seen it and we were kind of curious to watch it, and we've been curious to watch it for a while, is Blue Velvet. And this is a 1986 mystery thriller directed by David Lynch. And if you know David Lynch, and if you've seen any of his films like Mulholland Drive or Twin Peaks, you know his films are known for being bizarre, and this is a bizarre one. I don't want to say too much if you haven't seen the film, but a guy basically finds a severed ear in the middle of an abandoned field. He basically wants to get involved in the mystery himself, and then in the process he gets intertwined and involved with certain characters that I don't even want to go into. It is just, it's a weird one. I will say there is an actor, his name is Dennis Hopper. He plays the character Frank Booth, and oh my god, that is one of the best villains I have ever seen in a movie. He was so believable. He was terrifying. If you've ever seen Inglourious Basterds, Christoph Waltz in that movie, to me, was such a beautiful, perfect villain. He is so good at that. And this kind of reminded me of that. If you took that character and put it up a little notch of more crazy than that, he was scary. And it was honestly a great movie to watch. And if you like David Lynch films, I would love for you to comment down below and let me know what should be the next one we see. We've only seen Mulholland Drive and Twin Peaks, so I know there's Eraserhead and there's a few that we've been looking into, and we're not sure because now we kind of want to go into like a deep dive of David Lynch films. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. But I know his films are not for everyone and they are strange, but sometimes strange is fun. So the next film I saw on my own one random night for some strange reason. I don't know how this came to be. I think somebody posted about it on Instagram or something like that. It's called Where the Heart Is. It came out in 2000 and it's a romance comedy. People call it the Walmart baby movie with Natalie Portman, and that's basically what it is. I don't know why it's considered a romance comedy. There's literally nothing funny about it. It's based on a novel apparently, and a woman gets abandoned by her boyfriend and he leaves her at a Walmart while she's pregnant, and she doesn't have any family to go to, so she just hides out in the Walmart and then gives birth in there and becomes famous in the town for being the Walmart baby. I don't know. But then from there it just got really overloaded with plot points. It's like way too much for one film. It feels like it needed a series. Too many years in this movie go by. It's an overloaded script, it feels, and the plot is crammed. I don't know. It got kind of boring sometimes, and it was a little too sentimental for me going into it not knowing what to expect. I don't know what I thought this movie was gonna be. But I love Natalie Portman, so I just wanted to see this movie. Basically, think of a less quirky version of Juno, but also not at all. Speaking of Juno, the next movie is called Into the Forest, and it is a 2015 drama thriller with Elliot Page and Evan Rachel Wood. This one was also kind of disappointing. There's an apocalypse going on, and these sisters live together in an abandoned house in the middle of the forest during an apocalypse. I was expecting way more, It's considered a drama thriller. I don't know where the thrill was. There was barely any thrill. In fact, the fact that it was an apocalypse film is very misleading. There's no actual... They don't show you anything of the apocalypse. All you're seeing is the two sisters in the house the entire time, pretty much. You're not getting to watch what the world and the outside is even going through or looking like, and we don't really get to see any of that, and I felt like that was disappointing. Kind of slow, also kind of sentimental film. Very much about the sisterly love, which is nice. It was just way more centered on the relationship between the two sisters and not really about the apocalypse at all. And when I saw that the movie was called Into the Forest and it had to do with an apocalypse and it's called a thriller, I just expected a lot more out of it, so I found it kind of boring. But now everybody's been talking about Fear Street. It's on Netflix right now, and it is a horror trilogy that's just came out this year, just came out this month. There's 3 parts to it, and it got posted 1 per week, so it came out in like a span of 3 weeks. And it's actually based on the R.L. Stein books, which is pretty cool. And the whole kind of plot point in this is teenagers who have to break a curse of some sort. I'm not gonna lie, I like even bad horror films sometimes, so it wasn't like I totally thought this was the worst thing in the world, like oh my god, but I'm just a little confused because a lot of people are in love with this trilogy and they're making it seem like it was amazing, and I'm just kind of like, are we watching the same movie? It's okay, but I don't even understand. I was kind of on my phone with all 3 of these movies. I watched it, but without really watching it, and I didn't care. So, but if you feel like you really enjoyed Fear Street, I might need to watch it all over again during October for like the Halloween spirit, because I felt like it was just a generic teenage slasher film. Okay, last film I'm gonna mention, the worst film of them all. The one that I'm just like, I thought about not even bothering to mention it, but then I'm like, I don't know, why not? Let's just throw it in. Zeroville. Has anybody heard of this film? The only reason I even know this film existed was because after watching Megan Fox Until Death, I looked up other films with Megan Fox in it, and then I saw this random film that popped up called Zeroville, and it has James Franco, and it's directed by James Franco. It also has Seth Rogen in it, and Danny McBride, and all the people in that like circle of friends. This movie felt like a fever dream. It was like if they were trying to do Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, but like not cool at all. It's about a guy who is involved in the film business, and he's obsessed with films and old films in Los Angeles, and I don't know, I don't even understand what the movie was about. I don't understand the plot. I felt like I was watching something that made no sense to me. Okay, the last 3 things I'm gonna mention are TV shows or TV series. The first one I just have to mention because we saw it last night and it's at the top of my mind right now, is Love is Blind, but the After the Altar. So if anyone has watched Love is Blind, please comment down below and let me know what you thought of this, because we really loved watching Love is Blind during the pandemic. It's such a fun show to watch when you were bored at home anyways, and it was just such a, it was like weird because it was good but it was bad. It was like you can't help but love to hate it, but you loved it and it was great. This is basically the, not a sequel, but it's like they come back 2 years later after the whole show ended. I should stop and say, if you haven't seen Love is Blind, it's a dating show on Netflix where you have all these strangers and they talk to each other through a wall, and they have to learn to get to like fall in love with each other without seeing each other. And then the really insane part about it is that you basically decide to marry the person, and then once you decide to marry them, you can see who they are, and then you're engaged, and then you get married, and it's very fast forward. It's insane, but it's great. Super entertaining show if you're into, we're not even people who are into The Bachelor and all those type of shows. We never watch those things. Love is Blind is great. And After the Altar was so fun to watch. It was just 3 episodes, and it's 2 years later, and basically they got all the characters from Love is Blind and put them back in a room together, and then they just let them drink and get crazy. And it was just, if you love drama and like stupid drama, it's fun. If anybody has watched it and you want to talk about it with me, I would love to talk about it, because I feel like it'll be so much fun to just like talk crap about all the characters and just share thoughts. So feel free to message me and DM me at my Instagram and just like, let's talk about Love is Blind, because I loved that show, and there is a season 2 coming out, so I'm very excited to see that. It's definitely a guilty pleasure, and if you haven't tried it, I think you should just give it a shot. You might end up falling in love. And then speaking of Netflix, we did watch Sexy Beast, which is horrible. They've got really crazy prosthetic, like, special effects makeup on. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little entertaining, and it goes by really quickly. There's like 6 episodes, and they're all like 20 minutes long, so it kind of went by pretty fast. It's just so dumb because the whole premise of the idea is that they're wearing these crazy special effects makeup so that you can't see what they look like. So they look like animals for some reason. That's what they decide to do, is put like pandas and like rhino faces on people, and then you can't tell if they're good looking, but they all are good looking because obviously they picked the people to be all good looking anyways, so whatever. And the whole premise is that they have to like date and get to know each other without knowing what they look like, but the whole time everyone's like, I can't wait to see what you look like under your mask, and it's all about that anyways. So I don't even know what the point of it is. And also, this show features people who go on dates who don't even live in the same country. Like, how is this ever gonna work out for anyone? It was kind of dumb, but watch it if you're bored. Why not? And that's basically all the movies and, well, there wasn't much TV shows this month, really. It was just bad Netflix dating shows. If you've seen any of the films I mentioned, please share your thoughts and let me know what you saw this month, because I am always looking forward to the next month. Toodaloo!